In modern life, cars have long evolved from a simple means of transportation into the most common symbol of personal wealth and social status. In family gatherings, friend parties, and daily social interactions, people are always eager to show off their brand new luxury cars, high-end car configurations, and expensive modification costs to gain the admiration and envy of others. Many superficial people firmly believe that driving a luxury sports car or top-tier business vehicle represents success and superiority, while driving a second-hand ordinary car is equivalent to poverty, incompetence, and lifelong mediocrity. Star City Luxury Auto Mall is the largest, most authoritative high-end car sales center in the entire province. It gathers all global top luxury car brands, including Ferrari, Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, Porsche, and Mercedes-Maybach. It covers an area of hundreds of acres, with ultra-luxury exhibition halls, exclusive private test drive routes, one-stop car modification and maintenance services, and top-tier private car customization channels. It is the only official authorized flagship sales base for all super luxury car brands in Star City, and it is also a holy land that all local car lovers and wealthy elites dream of visiting. Ordinary people can hardly step into the core exhibition hall of the Auto Mall. The entry threshold for high-end luxury car exhibition areas is extremely strict, and even ordinary millionaires can only watch from a distance. Every year, countless wealthy businessmen and social celebrities spend millions or even tens of millions of dollars to order customized luxury cars here, trying to rely on top-tier vehicles to highlight their noble status. In the eyes of all local people, the boss of Star City Luxury Auto Mall is a legendary top tycoon with unfathomable wealth and absolute industry dominance. No one in the entire city knows that this huge luxury auto mall, all brand authorized dealership rights, hundreds of millions of dollars of inventory luxury cars, exclusive after-sales service centers, and citywide chain auto maintenance stores are all my personal private assets. I am the sole behind-the-scenes owner of Star City's entire high-end luxury car sales and service industry, controlling 90% of the city's luxury car trading and modification market. My name is Yi Chen. I am the youngest hidden tycoon in Star City's auto industry. I started my business by investing in high-end auto resources when I was in college. After years of silent layout and asset accumulation, I have completely monopolized the local high-end auto market. All luxury car salesmen, senior auto managers, professional modification technicians, and brand regional supervisors in the auto mall work for me. All the luxury cars that the rich people in the city scramble to buy are all from my inventory. Having been in the luxury auto industry for many years, I have seen through all the vanity and snobbery of society. I am tired of the deliberate flattery of wealthy customers and the utilitarian social interactions in the elite circle. In order to live a relaxed and simple life, I have always chosen to hide my terrifying wealth and industry status. I never take the initiative to expose my identity, and I deliberately keep a low profile in all daily life scenarios. In daily life, I drive an ordinary second-hand domestic car that only costs $3,000. The car has been used for several years, with slight wear on the interior and a few faint scratches on the body. I wear ordinary casual clothes, live in a quiet ordinary residential community, and never participate in any wealthy gatherings or industry summits. All my relatives, friends, and neighbors think that I am an ordinary office worker with a meager salary, living a tight and mediocre life with no future and no ambition. Every family gathering, I always become the target of relatives' unintentional or intentional ridicule. Among all the mocking relatives, my cousin Zhang Hao is the most snobbish and arrogant. Zhang Hao has always been eager to compare with me since childhood. He was unconvinced that I had better grades than him in school, and after entering society, he is even more eager to suppress me through material comparisons to satisfy his distorted vanity. Zhang Hao's family conditions are ordinary. He worked hard for 5 years after graduation, saved up all his savings, borrowed money from relatives, and finally bought an entry-level brand new joint venture car worth $20,000. For ordinary working families, this car is already a decent asset, but it is just an insignificant trivial gadget in my eyes. But relying on this ordinary new car, Zhang Hao became extremely arrogant and pompous. He shows off his car everywhere, mocks anyone who drives a second-hand car, and always takes every family gathering as his personal show stage to belittle others and highlight his so-called success. He has long been dissatisfied with my low-key life, and he has long wanted to publicly trample on my dignity to prove his superiority. The annual Spring Festival family reunion dinner became the trigger for his extreme humiliation and arrogant provocation. He took the initiative to target my second-hand car, ridiculed my poverty and incompetence in front of all relatives, and even boasted that he could easily crush my life with his new car. He never imagined that the worthless second-hand car I drive casually is just a trivial daily transportation tool for me, and all the luxury cars he can only dream of are all under my absolute control. Hashtag the climax of humiliation. Public ridicule at the family reunion dinner. The annual big family reunion dinner was held in the most prosperous private restaurant in the town. All elders, uncles, aunts, peers, and younger generations of the family gathered together. The whole hall was bustling with noise and laughter, filled with a strong festive atmosphere. All the peers took the initiative to chat about their work progress, salary income, housing, and vehicle conditions, and the whole scene was full of various invisible comparisons and vanity shows. All my cousins and cousins-in-law have their own new cars and houses more or less. Some drive mid-range SUVs, some have bought commercial housing in the urban area, and everyone has their own decent assets. Only I've always kept a low profile, driving my old secondhand car, never showing off or comparing, and living a simple and down-to-earth life. I originally thought that this year's reunion dinner would be as ordinary as before, chatting with elders, catching up with relatives, and ending the dinner peacefully. But I never expected that Zhang Hao would take the initiative to pick on me and carry out unscrupulous public humiliation in front of the whole family. After everyone sat down and exchanged simple greetings, Zhang Hao took the lead in speaking with a proud face. He deliberately raised his voice so that all relatives could hear clearly, shaking the new car key in his hand repeatedly, with undisguised arrogance in his tone. I'm really tired of driving my new car these days. The configuration is too high, the interior is too luxurious, and I'm not used to it at all. It cost me all my savings and several loans to buy this car. Although it's only an entry-level model, it's a brand new official car after all, which is much more decent than those tattered second-hand cars. As soon as he finished speaking, the surrounding relatives immediately began to echo and flatter him endlessly. Hao Hao is really promising. He can buy a new car at a young age, which is much better than those lazy and unambitious kids. A brand new car is a symbol of success. Driving out is decent and face-saving, far better than driving a shabby second-hand car. Young people have to work hard and strive for progress. Only by buying new houses and new cars can we be called successful in life. Listening to the surrounding praise, Zhang Hao's vanity was greatly satisfied. His eyes immediately turned to me, who was sitting quietly in the corner, and the ridicule and disdain in his eyes became more intense. He deliberately pointed at me and asked loudly in front of the whole family, "Yi Chen, I heard you still drive that broken second-hand car from several years ago. It's been so many years, and you haven't changed it yet? All of us peers have changed new cars and bought new houses. Only you're still hanging on to that tattered old car." I looked up at him calmly and replied indifferently, "A car is just a means of transportation. It can drive smoothly. There's no need to pursue newness and luxury." This plain and low-key response made Zhang Hao burst into loud laughter. He leaned back on the chair, held his stomach, and laughed wantonly, with extremely contemptuous eyes. "Ha ha, stop comforting yourself. It's not that you don't want to change. It's that you can't afford it. Don't make excuses with those empty words. A broken second-hand car worth a few $1,000s is the only thing you can afford in your life. Look at your current state. You dress shabbily, drive a tattered car, and have no savings or decent assets. Among all our cousins, you are the only complete loser. After so many years of working, you haven't made any achievements at all." His sharp and mocking words instantly made the whole private room fall into an awkward silence. All relatives turned their eyes to me, with pity, contempt, and disdain on their faces. Some elders even shook their heads and sighed, obviously agreeing with Zhang Hao's words and thinking that I was really incompetent and unambitious. An aunt sitting beside me also took the initiative to add fuel to the fire, with a tone of preaching and dissatisfaction. "Yi Chen, Annie has to say you young people can't be so lazy and complacent. Look at your cousin Hao Hao. He works hard, makes progress, and buys a new car by his own ability. Look at you. You are satisfied with driving a second-hand car all day long, with no pursuit at all. How can you get married and start a career like this in the future? No girl is willing to follow a man who drives a broken second-hand car and has no future. You have to learn from Hao Hao, work hard to make money, buy a good car and a good house so that you can have face in front of relatives." More and more relatives began to echo, preaching and mocking me one after another, taking my low-key life and second-hand car as negative teaching materials to educate the younger generation. For a moment, I became the biggest laughingstock of the entire reunion dinner. Faced with the siege and ridicule of the whole family, I still kept my patience. I understand that ordinary people's cognition is limited, and they can only judge a person's success or failure by superficial material conditions. I don't blame their ignorance and snobbery, and I don't want to argue with them over trivial matters. But my tolerance and low-key did not let Zhang Hao stop. On the contrary, it made him more rampant and arrogant. He thought I was inferior and cowardly, so he intensified his humiliation and completely trampled on my dignity in public. Zhang Hao stood up proudly, walked straight to my side, shook his new car key in front of my eyes, and said arrogantly and triumphantly, "Yi Chen, I'll give you a chance today. Kneel down and polish my new car for me, and I'll give you $100 as a tip. It's much better than you driving that broken car to work hard every day. With your ability, you can't earn this money easily. Or you can be my full-time driver. I'll pay you a monthly salary to drive my new car for me, which is enough for your daily expenses. Don't be stubborn anymore. You have to recognize your own gap and incompetence." This extremely insulting remark made the whole private room burst into loud laughter. All relatives looked at me with teasing eyes, waiting for me to lose my temper or admit defeat and completely become a joke of the family. Zhang Hao looked at my calm face and thought I was scared, so he became more arrogant and boasted wildly. Let me tell you the truth. Last week I went to Star City Luxury Auto Mall to see cars. I touched the interior of a Porsche and sat in a Rolls-Royce. Although I can't afford those luxury cars now, I have seen the world. Unlike you, who have never even stepped into a high-end auto mall in your life and can only guard your broken second-hand car all your life. Those luxury cars are the real symbols of the upper class. People like you who drive second-hand cars will never be able to touch that world in your life. The gap between us is wider than the sky. Listening to his ignorant and arrogant boasting, I finally felt ridiculous. He was complacent about touching a luxury car in my auto mall, humiliated me wantonly with his ordinary new car, and looked down on my low-key second-hand car. He had no idea that the entire luxury auto mall he yearned for, all the Porsche and Rolls-Royce he admired, were all my personal assets. I have hundreds of top luxury cars parked in my auto mall inventory, countless customized supercars and limited edition luxury vehicles, and dozens of private luxury cars for my personal use. The second-hand car I drive is just for convenience and low-key inspection, not because I have no money to buy luxury cars. Since he is so obsessed with car comparisons and superficial vanity, so arrogant and ignorant, and so good at humiliating others to highlight his superiority, I will completely crush his false pride with absolute strength today, let him know what real wealth and status are, and make him pay a heavy price for his snobbery and humiliation. Hashtag explosive full identity reversal. The second-hand car driver is the luxury auto tycoon. The gentle look on my face completely faded, and a cold and domineering aura instantly spread throughout the entire noisy private room. The relaxed and festive atmosphere disappeared in an instant, and a strong sense of oppression made all the laughing relatives hold their breath involuntarily. The whole private room suddenly fell dead silent. All the elders and relatives stared at me in shock, unable to adapt to the sudden change of my aura. The arrogant smile on Zhang Hao's face froze rigidly, and he looked at me blankly, with a trace of unease flashing in his eyes, but he still forced himself to be arrogant. What? Are you angry? You can't stand being told the truth? A loser who drives a second-hand car is not qualified to lose his temper with me. I stood up slowly, my cold eyes sweeping over his pale face, and my deep and powerful voice resounded clearly in the silent private room. You laugh at me for driving a second-hand car, mock me for being incompetent, show off your ordinary new car wantonly, and even humiliate me to polish your car and be your driver. You think you have achieved success and have the capital to look down on me? Zhang Hao stiffened his neck and shouted stubbornly. So, what? This is the truth. You are poor and incompetent, and you can only drive a broken second-hand car. I am more successful than you, and I have the right to look down on you. Truth. I sneered coldly. You who have never seen the real world are not qualified to talk about truth. Just as Zhang Hao was about to continue ridiculing, the door of the private restaurant was suddenly pushed open. A row of black business cars parked neatly at the door, and a group of senior managers in neat black suits walked in quickly and respectfully. Everyone held professional tablets and official work documents with solemn and respectful expressions on their faces. Walking at the front was Li Rui, the general manager of Star City Luxury Auto Mall, the highest-ranking executive in charge of all daily operations of my auto mall. He is usually aloof and prestigious, controlling the work of hundreds of salesmen and technicians, and even wealthy customers who spend millions have to take the initiative to communicate politely with him. All the relatives in the private room were instantly stunned. They stared at the group of well-dressed and imposing senior managers in shock, completely unable to understand why the top person in charge of the city's largest luxury auto mall would suddenly appear in this small-town restaurant. Before anyone could react, General Manager Li Rui led all the senior executives to walk straight towards me quickly. In full view of all the stunned relatives, the usually dignified and untouchable auto mall general manager bent his waist 90 degrees deeply, bowed respectfully, and shouted in a trembling and extremely reverent voice. Respected Bossy, all senior management staff of Star City Luxury Auto Mall are here to greet you. We have heard that you are inspecting privately today, and we are late to pick you up. Please forgive us for our dereliction of duty. Boom. The entire private room completely exploded into earth-shaking uproar. All relatives were petrified on the spot, their brains blank, their bodies stiff, falling into unprecedented extreme shock and disbelief. The stubborn and arrogant expression on Zhang Hao's face completely collapsed, his legs went weak in an instant, and he slumped heavily to the ground with a plop. The new car key in his hand slipped and fell on the floor, making a crisp sound, which was extremely harsh in the silent room. His face turned pale as paper, cold sweat soaking through his whole body, and his whole body kept trembling violently. The aunt who had just preached and mocked me opened her mouth wide, staring at the scene in front of her in a daze, completely unable to close her mouth. All the relatives who had echoed the ridicule and shook their heads and sighed were all stunned in place, their eyes full of extreme horror and incredulity. The loser who drove a second-hand car and was ridiculed by the whole family was actually the supreme boss of Star City Luxury Auto Mall, the top tycoon they could never climb up to in their life. The luxury auto mall that Zhang Hao was proud of visiting and touching luxury cars was completely my private asset. The ordinary new car that Zhang Hao showed off crazily was not even worth a fraction of any luxury car in my inventory. Li Rui stood up straight, took out the highest level asset ownership certificate and industrial equity documents with both hands, and publicly announced to all the stunned relatives in a loud and solemn tone. I solemnly announce to all present today, Mr. Yi Chen is the sole legal owner, founder, and absolute controlling shareholder of Star City Luxury Auto Mall. All luxury car exhibition halls, brand authorization rights, tens of millions of inventory vehicles, after-sales maintenance centers, and citywide chain auto service stores of Star City Luxury Auto Mall are 100% privately owned by Mr. Yi. All salesmen, technicians, and management personnel of the auto mall are all employees working for Mr. Yi. All luxury car trading profits and industry income belong exclusively to Mr. Ye's personal assets. M. Ard Ye usually drives an ordinary second-hand car just for low-key convenience and private inspection. He owns more than 80 top luxury cars, including Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, and Porsche in his private garage, with a total asset value exceeding hundreds of millions of dollars. The high-end auto mall that everyone yearns for and admires is just a trivial part of Mr. Ye's industrial layout. These sonorous and powerful words were like continuous thunderclaps exploding over everyone's heads, completely shattering all their superficial cognition, snobbish prejudice, and false superiority. Everyone finally woke up completely. The mediocre and incompetent second-hand car driver they mocked wantonly was the real top auto tycoon standing at the peak of the industry. I stood calmly in the center of the private room, my cold eyes slowly sweeping over the terrified and desperate Zhang Hao, and my powerful voice resounded throughout the silent venue. I drive a second-hand car not because I have no money to buy luxury cars, but because I disdain to use vehicles to prove my identity and vanity. I have stood at the top of the local auto industry for a long time, overlooking all the so-called successful people who show off their cars. For me, a car is just a transportation tool, never a capital for comparison and arrogance. You work hard for several years just to buy an ordinary new car, and you take this trivial gain as the capital to humiliate others and satisfy your distorted vanity. You have never known how ridiculous and superficial your so-called success is in the eyes of real strength. Success is never measured by the newness and luxury of a card. A person's value lies in his mind, character, and pattern, not superficial material packaging. Those who judge others by material things, bully the low-key, and flaunt themselves, will eventually be crushed by the reality they can never accept. Every word hit the hearts of all relatives hard, making the previous ridicule and prejudice extremely embarrassing and ridiculous. All relatives hung their heads deeply, full of endless shame and regret, and no one dared to raise their heads to look at me again. #Zero Mercy thorough counterattack and desperate final ending. After recovering from extreme shock and fear, Zhang Hao completely collapsed mentally. He knelt heavily on the cold floor, kowtowed repeatedly in panic, tears and snot streaming down his face, and begged for mercy hoarsely. Boss Yi, cousin, I'm wrong. I'm blind and ignorant. I don't know your noble identity. I relied on your industry resources to gain insight, but I dared to humiliate you arrogantly and mock your second-hand car. I'm extremely stupid and ungrateful. Please forgive my fault. Don't punish me. This new car is all my life savings. I beg you. Zhang Hao was scared out of his wits. He clearly knew that I controlled the city's entire auto industry. With a single word from me, I could completely cut off all his related industry channels and even make him unable to buy insurance, repair cars, or handle any auto-related business in the whole city. The aunt who had preached and mocked me also knelt down tremblingly, her face full of pale regret. She kept slapping her own mouth and apologized repeatedly. Yi Chen, Annie is wrong. Auntie has no eyes. I shouldn't have preached you casually and mocked your life. I was snobbish and superficial. Please don't take it to heart. All the other relatives who had echoed the ridicule also bowed their heads and apologized repeatedly, full of endless shame and fear. They all knew that they had offended a top tycoon, and their future life and work would be greatly affected. I looked at the kneeling crowd indifferently, without the slightest pity in my eyes. Vanity and snobbery have no excuse for forgiveness. My low-key and humility is my life choice, never the capital for others to trample on my dignity arbitrarily. I turned my eyes to General Manager Li Rui beside me and gave my cold and decisive order, without any hesitation. First, put Zhang Hao's personal information into the blacklist of all industries under my group. Permanently refused to provide any auto-related services for him and his immediate family members, including car sales, after-sales maintenance, insurance agency, and modification services. All chain stores in the city are prohibited from receiving him for life. Second, cancel all preferential auto industry policies for all relatives who participated in mocking and humiliating me today. All their future car purchases and maintenance will no longer enjoy any industry discounts, and all service channels will be strictly restricted. Third, Take this incident as a typical industry warning. Organize all employees of the auto mall to carry out professional ethics training. Require all staff to respect every customer. Prohibit any snobbish behavior of judging people by clothing and vehicles, and zero tolerance for vanity, discrimination. Fourth, publicly release the industry concept that vehicles are just transportation tools. Wealth lies in inner pattern. Eliminate the bad social atmosphere of comparing cars and showing off wealth, and guide the public to establish correct values. Execute all orders immediately with zero delay. Yes, we will strictly implement all Boss Ye's instructions perfectly. Li Rue and all senior executives bowed respectfully and responded loudly, without the slightest hesitation. In an instant, Zhang Hao completely lost all auto-related service qualifications in the city. His newly bought car could not be maintained or insured normally, and he could only be abandoned at home. All his savings and hard work turned into bubbles overnight. He fell from a so-called promising young man to a family joke, suffering endless regret and ridicule from relatives. All the snobbish relatives lost all auto industry preferential treatment. Their future car use and maintenance costs increased exponentially, and they completely lost the convenience of high-quality industry resources. They finally paid the price for their superficial snobbery. The entire Star City Luxury Auto Mall completely eliminated the subtle atmosphere of valuing luxury and despising simplicity. All employees treated every customer equally and respectfully, regardless of clothing, vehicles, and status. The industry reputation and public praise reached an unprecedented peak. All relatives present learned a profound and unforgettable lesson. They finally deeply understood that real top rich people are always low-key and humble, and only superficial and incompetent people rely on trivial material gains to show off their superiority and bully others. I glanced indifferently at the group of desperate and regretful people kneeling on the ground, turned around calmly, and left the private restaurant quietly. All senior executives stood respectfully on both sides to make way for me, full of endless awe and shame. Real wealth and status never need superficial material packaging to prove. I hide my identity and drive an ordinary second-hand car because I have already stood at the peak of the industry, overlooking all trivial vanity comparisons and snobbish prejudices in the world. All material possessions are external things, and true nobility lies in inner tolerance and pattern. Those who fawn on the wealthy and bully the lowly, judge others by superficial conditions, and humiliate others for trivial superiority will eventually be crushed by the real strength they can never touch and pay irreversible painful prices for their ignorance and snobbery. Tolerance has boundaries, and kindness has edges. My low-key humility is my self-cultivation, but never the capital for others to trample on my dignity arbitrarily. Anyone who is snobbish, arrogant, and ungrateful will surely bear all the bitter consequences of their own mistakes.